Well, we continue to get some great guests here on the show, and we couldn't be more thankful. And this week is no exception. Author Mark Love has lived for many years in the metropolitan Detroit area, where I grew up, and crime and corruption are always prevalent in the Motor City. He's a former freelance reporter, newspaper reporter, and Love honed his writing skills covering features on hard news. He is a multi-award-winning author now of the Jamie Richmond Mysteries from Inkspell Publishing. Those books were Devious, Vanishing Act, Fleeing Beauty, Stealing Haven, and Chasing Flavors. Love also writes the Jefferson Cheyenne Mystery Series. That's coming to you from Wild Rose Press. And those books are Y319, Your Turn to Die, and The Wayward Path. His first standalone mystery, Rules of Desperation, was published in 2024. Love's latest work is the novella Part-Time Criminal. And we're going to talk to him some more about some other stuff he's been working on. Mark Love now resides in Western Michigan with his wife, Kim, and he enjoys the variety of life, everything from music, books, travel, cooking, and exploring the great outdoors. In one of his books, he had, without a doubt, I think one of the greatest statements I've read in a long time. It said, just as a little kind of blurb, author does not apologize for any sleep lost as a result of your inability to manage self-control and put these books down at the end of the day. Well, we're very fortunate in the guests we've been getting on the show, and this week is no exception. This gentleman has basically blazed trails in the suspense and mystery genre, and we're happy to have him on the show from my former state of Michigan. How about it from Mark Love?
Thank you, Tom. Pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah, nice to see you. Well, this is the first time for us talking and such, and I do have some questions, so I'm just going to dive right in. Is that okay?
That's fine with me, sure.
Well, I guess first, it's always best to start at the beginning. Have you always been a writer? Did you write when you were young?
I was a storyteller in my youth, and I went to the Catholic school systems in Detroit. And when I was in elementary school, they were taught primarily by the good Dominican sisters, the nuns. And I remember one nun at an English class, I must have been in 6th or 7th grade, she gave me this very stern look and said, "You're getting very good at making things up, Mr. Love. well, I took that as a compliment, but I don't think that's the way she meant it. So I've always been an avid reader and an active storyteller, and I always wanted to try and do more, write stories that I thought could engage the reader and maybe give them a little education, but also have a little fun with it too. So,
Well, we have that in common. I am a former student of the Sisters of Perpetual Misery, and yeah, grew up in the Catholic school system in and around Detroit. Christ the King up
oh, sure.
Grand River, Redford High School.
Yes.
My sister went to school with Alice Cooper at Redford High School, and were you always a reader as a youngster?
Yes, I was always intrigued by books from an early age, and I loved mysteries, and I tore through all of the Hardy Boy stories and all that. I think
Yeah.
when I was about maybe 11 or 12, I discovered the John D. McDonald series, the Travis McGee books that were set in Florida, and I just devoured those. I enjoyed those so much. And I was always looking for new books, new stories. And I was very fortunate to stumble upon some of Elmore Leonard's great stories
Oh yeah.
when I was in my teens. And when I had taken a couple of creative writing classes in college and I was working and getting into a family and whatnot, there was an event that he had a new book that was being released and he was doing an autograph session at a little bookstore right in the heart of downtown Detroit. And I just heard about it like an hour before this thing went. So I ran in there. I thought this guy is just a fantastic writer. I want to get one of his books autographed. I thought that would be great. Well, I walked in and they had a little card table set up with a stack of books on it. And he's sitting there and there's nobody around him. And I was like, am I early? Is he late? What's going on? Nothing. So we started talking. And he found out that I was very interested in writing and I loved his stories and whatnot. And we had probably a 30-minute conversation. And at one point in time, this darling little old lady came up shyly to approach his table. And I was feeling like I'm really taking advantage of this guy. I should shut up and walk away. And I started to step back, and he raised a hand and said, "No, wait." And he turned to her, talked to her for a minute, autographed a book, thanked her for being an avid reader, and turned back to me and said, "Now, where were we?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh."
Now,
And
How old were you at that age? 15?
oh, I had to be early 30s at that point in time.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I wasn't writing as much then as because I was working and raising a family and such. So I didn't have the opportunity to write, but I still really wanted to. And when I met him, I will never forget one of the great pieces of advice he gave me was focus on dialogue. Because if you're writing contemporary stories, you have to understand that people don't speak in complete sentences. Now, if you're writing something that's set in Victorian England, that's different. But if it's contemporary stories, we don't speak in full sentences. It's grunts, it's one or two words. And he said, if you can master that, everything else will flow. Focus on that. And I was like, okay, thank you, Yoda, and I just took it and I've always kept that in mind. And I've had some really positive comments from readers and friends who said, you paid attention to what he said because your dialogue sounds so realistic now. It really makes the stories flow.
Well, do you read now? And if so, what do you read these days?
Oh, I read voraciously. Currently reading Michael Connelly's Proving Grounds that just came out. I've been reading a lot of Greg Hurwitz. He's got a fantastic series called The Orphan X. I read a lot of John D. McDonald. I still go back and get those books, the old Travis McGee series.
Ah,
I'll read those again and again. John Sanford is really an exceptional author. He writes a lot of great mysteries. And I have to say, I'm a big fan of Stephen King. I've been enjoying his books for a very long time. And
Well,
Several of them are right here next to me. So
tell us a little bit about Motown Writers Network.
Motown Writers Network. I believe that's Sylvia Hubbard that runs
Yes,
that.
weren't you a member of that organization?
I may have been a few years back, but I'm no longer living right in metropolitan Detroit. I live over near Kalamazoo. So I'm not as active with that group. I mean, there's still a lot we see on social media sites, and occasionally we'll be at some of the same venues together, and we wave as we're running past each other. But
Well, we're
uh,
going to be at the Detroit Book Fest coming up next July,
oh, really?
and then also doing the Alpena Blues Festival up in Alpena. So let's make it a point to get together and let me buy you lunch.
Yeah. Oh, I like the sound of that.
Well,
You
now
know.
you're an ex newspaper man,
Yes.
and the one thing I want to ask you is, do old news stories make it into your work? And does being a ex newspaper man prepare you well for being a suspense and mystery author?
Yes, I think the experience was a significant part of my efforts and my success that we have now. When I was working as a freelance reporter for the Oakland Press, I originally started covering city council meetings, school boards, things of that nature, and then they started giving me some features. And after about a year or so, I was approached by an editor, and they said, "How do you feel about crime?" Which was about my reaction too. And I said, "I'm all for it. What do you have in mind?" And they said, "We would like to give you a crime beat. And you could go to these same four suburban cities in Oakland County every Monday morning, review the blotter of the crimes from the previous week. You can talk to the top cop or the public information officer, whatever the title is, and get some background and then write a summary from those different departments, and we'll run that in the paper, and of course we'll pay you for that." I'm like, yes, I get to talk to police officers, I get to find out more about crime, and it was really a great experience. And at one point I started to notice patterns where I would see the same crime happening in all four of these cities. And I asked the guys, I said, I'm just a reporter. You guys are the professionals here. If I can see a pattern, I would think you could too. And I was told that they would just focus on their own individual communities. They wouldn't look anywhere beyond their borders.
Hmm.
Well, that gave me the inspiration to create a squad of detectives that would work for the state police of Michigan and give them jurisdiction over the entire Tri-County area, because that's over 6 million square miles, over 5 million people, and a multitude of cities and towns and villages that each have their own law enforcement department, but they may not have all of the resources or all the information that's helpful, because many times the crime may occur in Wayne County, but the leads take you into Oakland County or Macomb or the different cities. So that was the inspiration for that series of books, and that's turned out really popular. And some of the events or stories that I worked on or was familiar with have actually shown up in the different books. The first book in the police procedural series is called Why 319. And it's WHY 319 with a question mark. And the storyline is there are three murders that take place, one in each of the three counties in suburban cities. The victims are all found in room 319 of a different hotel. And the only clue is this message is written on the bathroom mirror, WHY 319 with a question mark. And they use the victim's lipstick. And again, because he's happened in different counties, different cities, they don't realize it's a serial killer until the squad from the state gets involved in the investigation. Now, I want to say it was in the early to mid 1980s. There was a homicide that took place right near Metro Detroit Airport. And it was a flight attendant from Northwest Airlines. And she was brutally killed. and her body was found in a hotel room right near the airport. This was unsolved for more than 25 years. And so that stuck in the back of my mind that I wonder if you could have more than one killing in different hotels, but some kind of connection with the hotel rooms. And so that led to that story. And as the old comic Jackie Gleason used to say, and away we go. You just kind of take off from there.
Well, I'm gonna definitely look that up and see if I can get that for Christmas. You've got, I want to say 11 books out now total, 11 titles.
I have 11 titles, one of which is a collection of short stories that Inkspell Publishing, which is one of the houses that I work with, put together, and I have a story in that. And then I have 10 books of my own that are either standalone or in the Jefferson Shane, which is the police procedural stories, or the Jamie Richmond, which is the mysteries with a bit of romance to them.
Now you've done most recently a book called Part-Time Criminal, and it's a
Yes,
novella. Tell
that's
what is
right.
for those that don't know, what is a novella?
A novella is a like a long short story. It's usually anywhere between 25 and 30,000 words. So it's a faster read. It's a little more challenging because I can get a little long-winded. And so it was something different I wanted to try. I had this gem of an idea. Um, I wanted to see where it would go. And the storyline is about a young man, honest, hardworking individual, and he discovers that someone else is taking credit for all of his ideas and all of his hard work. Who would do such a thing? But when Simon realizes this is what's happening and it's his boss doing this and he's also being very unethical, Simon's not satisfied just reporting him to the higher ups at the company they work with. He wants this fella to pay. But in order to do that, Simon's going to get a little creative. And in order to really make it happen, he's going to have to do something that's a little bit criminal. So he becomes a part-time criminal.
It's a great title. Great title.
Thank you.
Um, can you talk a little bit about your creative process? Would you say that you are a pantser or a plotter? Do you just sit down at the keyboard and let it flow out, or do you actually plot and make graphs and all that kind of stuff?
No, I am definitely a pantser. I tried doing outlines years ago, and it's just I felt it's too restrictive for me. For the type of books that I write, I will start out with an idea, um, decide which character or create a new character, and I just take it and I'll start writing it, and the story will flow from there. I finish one scene, it'll give me an inspiration to do something else, a different scene, a different story, and I don't write in chronological order either. So I'll write the scenes as they come to me, and then later on I'll sit down and go, okay, I've got 50 or 60,000 words of a story written. Now I have to go back and move things around. And that's what's wonderful about computers and cut and paste. You can just move it so easily. And then I can say, okay, now I realize this is flowing, but there's a gap here. So I need to write a scene that will connect these two together. And that's a method that really works well for me.
And doing all of that at the keyboard, I mean, you don't have you ever taken a look at dictation or anything like that?
Um, I haven't done anything with dictation recently. I did that a few years ago, and that was all right. I often carry a notepad with me and a pen. Every writer's got a pen, so if I have an inspiration strike me while I'm working out or while I'm driving, I'll jot it down somewhere. Or if I'm driving, I'll turn on the record app on my phone and just blurt out a couple of things. But then as soon as I have the opportunity to sit down at a keyboard, I will elaborate on that. I'll take that little germ of an idea and just run with it. I'll give you a quick example if I could. A
Please.
new story that I'm working on, I had this just these two lines that came into play, and it stuck in the back of my head. And the first one was, violence is not the answer. And the second line was, depends on the question. And I sat and I said, okay, now I got to figure out. So then I just wrote about 2,000 words of a scene between my two characters leading up to that, and then ended the scene with that quote. And I said, wow, that works so well. Now I got to get back and work on the rest of the story. But sometimes that's all it'll take.
And how long does it take you to write a novel from beginning to end?
That's a challenge because I'm still working. I teach at the local college, and I usually have 3 or 4 classes a semester, and that takes a lot of time between the actual classrooms and lesson plans and grading papers and whatnot. So I want to say probably between 9 and 10 months to complete a story when I'm able to sit down and work on it. The novella, Part-Time Criminal, that really surprised me because it was a shorter story. And the timing just worked out really well that I was able to do that last winter. And I started working on it in late October, along with everything else that I was doing. I finished it on New Year's Day, and then I got it cleaned up and ready, and I was able to get it and self-publish that one in, I think, in February or March of this year. So that was a very quick turnaround time.
Now let's back up for a second. Are you teaching writing as well at the college level?
No, actually, I teach business classes, and I have one. It's called College and Career or Transitional Studies. It's a first-year experience for students that maybe weren't the best of students in high school and are now coming to college, or, yeah, me too, or were non-traditional students where they finished high school, took a job, started a family, whatever the case may be, and are coming back in. And so this is giving them the fundamentals that they need in order to be successful in college and in career and in life as well.
Couple of other things, just I want to make sure I've got my list here. Have you always written in series? I noticed that's quite a things. You got first book, second book, third book.
I never intended to write a series when I first started writing. The first book that I did that got published was called Devious. It's the first book in the Jamie Richmond series. And the publisher was getting it all ready to go and said, okay, when am I going to see the next one? I really love these characters. And I went, I hadn't thought about it, but I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And so the second book was very well received, and it's just kind of continued. And I've discovered that these characters are so good and so much a part of me that they're getting their own following. And I've had people say, one young lady this summer bought all 5 of the books in the Jamie Richmond series. And I happened to see her in October at a different event, and she said, when am I going to see the next Jamie book? I said, I haven't written it yet. When? And she didn't want to take no for an answer. I was like, I'm working on something, but I have time.
I'm pedaling as fast as I can.
Exactly, and it's uphill with strong wind.
Now, are all your books available as? I know they're available as because I read some of the blurbs and some of the previews where you can go and read like the first chapter or whatever.
Right.
You have a very engaging style.
Thank you.
Really good foreshadowing of stuff and making me want to read the next chapter. Where's this going to go? What is this guy's modus operandi? What is his background? Do you also, so you have ebooks and you have print books. Are they also available on audiobook as well?
I have one title that's available in Audible, and it's called Your Turn to Die.
Ooh,
and that's
great title.
That's in the police procedural series, the Jefferson Shane books.
Well, I guess the one question I wanted to ask was, what's the best thing about being a writer and an author, and what's the worst thing?
Oh, I think the best is being able to come up with stories that people find entertaining or engaging and really get them hooked. And when that happens, it's often the case that somebody will come back to me and want to get another book in the series or find out what's new that I've got. And I think we all have some talents as storytellers. I think it's just a matter of digging it out and the persistence that goes with taking an idea and weaving it into 80,000 words to keep the reader going, keep them interested. And if I'm not interested in what I'm writing, I don't think anybody else is going to be. So it's got to be something that appeals to me. And I think that's really so much a big part of why I do what I do.
I totally agree, and I think that unfortunately we have lost the tradition of storytelling. I'm from the Irish culture, as if you couldn't tell. Big, huge, big, huge channel. Um, and I vividly remember um, us kids sitting around Grandpa's feet and him telling stories about the old country and leprechauns and all the rest of it.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, that's certainly important. But I'll check out those audiobooks. Boy, audiobooks are really becoming very, very popular.
Yeah, they are indeed. And I got to look at trying to do some more with that, but it's a matter of time and patience. And I'm debating about whether to hire an actual actor or if I want to try reading it myself. Uh, I will tell you, I recently, the college had uh, story hour, and they invited a bunch of students and faculty and staff to submit a story, and it just had to be two things. It had to be true, and it had to have something to do with water.
Hmm.
So I had one, and I submitted it to them for consideration. I was pleasantly surprised when they said, "Yes, we want you to do this." And so we did that, and there was about 45 or 50 people that were in attendance, and there were 9 of us that were sharing stories that were all along the theme of water, and it was very well received, and I got a kick out of standing up there and reading my story. And the facilitator afterwards said, "I love the way you put certain inflections in your voice as you're reading something, because you hesitate and then you draw us in and then you get it. It
You,
really worked well."
you tell a
So
story.
I could I could do that. I can tell the story.
What a concept. Um, Let me ask you this. I always ask my authors, artificial intelligence is making a big imprint in our business, especially for our photography and illustrator friends. But we make a differentiation between assisted AI, like Grammarly, or just something to help you with your spelling and grammar and that kind of thing, versus generative AI, which they're doing now, where you can prompt a system and it spits out 20,000 words. What do you think that if an author uses AI, and I do use it for research, if you use it in a book, should we tell the reader?
Well, I think there's a difference here if we're using it for research to help us get information to make our stories more accurate and believable, as opposed to having it completely write the story. I will admit I do a lot of research on all of my work, and I will usually reference where I do. I do a lot of interviews with people as well, especially if they have a background that's specific for one of my characters. I interviewed a lady one time that trains cadaver dogs or human remains dogs, and I wanted to be able to incorporate that into the story. So it was much better to talk to a person with practical experience than to try and go to an AI chatbot and just get that. So I'm not a big fan of the AI systems as far as the writing goes. And I must admit, I've had a couple of my students that have tried to get cute and submit something that was written just as if it was their own work, but they're submitting something that they got from an AI chat. Uh, I'm I don't want to I don't want to destroy the creative influence that writers and artists and photographers have by using something that was computer generated.
Yes. And do professors have the wherewithal to determine that? Do you have some secret software that can determine whether or not something is AI written?
I don't know if it's secret software. I think it's just it's usually something that if I've had a student that have submitted two or three assignments, I get accustomed to their writing style. I've seen what they're able to do, whether it's one gigantic paragraph, all run on sentences, poor grammar, whatever. And then the next thing they submit is picture perfect. And sometimes there's inaccuracies that they didn't bother to check. I've had one that said, with my story, with my business, it's going to be this in my town. And it didn't say Kalamazoo. It didn't say Farmington Hills. It just said in like insert town. And I thought, okay, you couldn't even bother to correct that. You didn't proofread what you submitted. You didn't make it your own.
It's
Not,
almost as if you'd be with as much effort as you put in to cheating and using AI. If you just put that effort into doing an original work, you'd be.
yeah, and you would learn so much more about it. Now, the one of the departments that I work with at school, they do have a policy for AI, and they instruct. We share it with the students. I said, if you're going to use this, you have to, announce that, yeah, I did use AI to help me do this part of it, and this is the research that I got. Whatever, I can work with that because I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon, and I want students to feel comfortable and get a better understanding of the best way to use it and the proper way to use this tool, as opposed to just saying, give me 1,500 words on how to create a method to solve procrastination. Push the button and then take that and say, this is my work. Not going to happen.
Yeah. Um, so what's next? Can you tell us a little bit about what you might be working on?
Well, I have a novel that I completed. It's a crime novel, and some people would say it's historical fiction because there's a character that's introduced in the second Jefferson Shane series. His name is Leo Agonasti, and Leo was when Shane meets him, he is a retired mobster. He wasn't a hitman. He was the kind of guy that would launder money for the mob and everything else. I've had so many readers, and because he appears in both the second and the third book, that really enjoyed this character, that I took him and moved him back to 1992 when he was still active in the mob. And I wrote this crime novel with thoughts in my mind at the time. It would be an homage to Elmore Leonard and his wonderful crime stories. I got it done. I've had my beta readers check it out. And I really think this is one that could take me to the next level. So at this moment, I'm trying to find a literary agent that thinks they would take a chance on me and perhaps take this book and find it a home at one of the larger publishers that's out there. Because the dream is, yes, that happens, and then that would result in greater sales for my catalog of books. And then if you really want to make it a dream, then Spielberg will call me and we'll be off to Hollywood with the story or something like that.
Yeah,
So
I got tired of waiting for Simon and Schuster to call, so I
yes,
went the independent publishing route. Do you have a working title for that yet?
that one is called Aganasti's Dilemma, and like I said, I'm shopping it with literary agents right now. While that's on the shelf, staying warm, I'm working on the fourth Jefferson Shane novel, and I have an idea for a young adult novella that I might try and do, and that would tie in with the Jamie Richmond series. There's a young guy that's mentioned in this. He's become a minor character in this, but he's like a 16-year-old boy, and it becomes like Jamie's unofficial kid brother. So she loves to torment him and
Um,
see if I can work that out.
I There's a couple of things I just want to mention before we run out of time.
Okay.
If there was one thing, I always ask my guests this question: if there was one thing that you wish readers knew about your books, what would it be?
Wow, that's a good question. Um, I think one thing I wish they knew was that these stories are all engaging. They're all separate novels, and they're all set here in Michigan, mostly in metropolitan Detroit, or Motown, as they say. And they're all contemporary. They're all things that common everyday people might enjoy or might recognize some of the situations that have been the characters have found themselves in.
Well, I have been very impressed with the book community within Michigan. The made in the mitten
Yep.
icons that you can put. It's just a very active, from the Traverse City Writer Series up in Traverse City there at Interlochen, to Motown Writers Network, the Detroit Book Festival. It is exciting to see. But lastly, I
Okay.
got to tell you, I got to tell you, your little warning comment in the book, I laughed for an hour. I think it is so awesome. Where you say, quote, author does not apologize for any sleep lost as a result of your inability to manage self-control and put these books down at the end of the day. I loved that. That is
Yeah,
absolutely awesome.
that's a great line. I really like that one. So,
Well, so where can they find you? I know you've got a couple of different websites. Tell us about those.
well, on my website is motownmysteries.com, and you can find links to all of the books there. I've got separate pages for the Jamie Richmond series, for the Jefferson Shane books, and the other stories as well. All of my books are available on Amazon. You can get them in print or in ebook format there, as well as most of the other sites for books like Barnes and Noble or Smashwords, things like that. Apple Books too. I'm on social media with Facebook, with Instagram, and with Threads. And I'm trying to see if I can expand a little bit more on social media, but I'm running out of time. So,
Yeah, you can only do so much. Well, I want
right.
to thank you so much for coming by. When you come out with a new book, please come back and talk to us. I just find your work very fascinating. Thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure, Tom. Thank you, and enjoy the sunshine down in Florida.
From the sea, from the air, from the land, the latest in news and perspectives on books and music here at Tom's Cabin. Well, love is in the air, but spring is in the air too. And now is the time to start laying plans for the 2026 festival season. There's really nothing like getting with other authors or getting with readers and seeing them face to face, eye to eye, and talking with them about what they love about your books and what they might not like about your books. Festival season is upon us. Let's take a look at just some festivals that are coming up, book festivals in and around the United States for Q1 and Q2 2026. Hey, circle the date on your calendar, March 28th. It's a Saturday. It's coming up in just a couple of months. Books on the Bay 2026. Right here in Pensacola, city of Five Flags. Make it a point to come as a exhibitor or as a reader. Books on the Bay. It's going to be a blast. They have announced the dates for 2026 for Author Nation and Reader Nation. Make it a point to come by next November in Las Vegas, Nevada. Hey, I also wanted to mention that all of my books are available as autographed copies via my website at www.authortommcauliffe.com. Well, moving forward, talk about a generous donation. Award-winning author David Balagucci's $13 million donation to Virginia Commonwealth University and the Library of Virginia aims to foster civil discourse and collaboration across the political spectrum. The initiative, known as the Civil Discourse and Collaboration Initiative, is designed to promote nonpartisan political dialogue and encourage respectful conversations among individuals with different political viewpoints. Balagucci believes that most people want to engage in discussions that are peaceful and civil rather than engage in a polarized environment. The donation is part of Balagucci's broader commitment to education and civil engagement, and he has been active with the Library of Virginia for many, many years, and he earned a political science degree from Virginia Commonwealth University. So congratulations there, an outstanding achievement to help heal some of the political discourse problems we seem to be having in this country. We've lost the art of conversation, and David Balagucci's $13 million donation. Hats off to you, sir. Outstanding. Well, I'm very excited to report that my new book, The Edmund Fitzgerald Without a Trace, set all records for pre-sales of all 34 of my books. This one was the one that has sold more copies in pre-sale. We're doing very, very well. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Just in time for the 50th anniversary of the sinking of the SS Edmund Fitzgerald in Lake Superior. We'll be going to the memorial ceremony next November at Whitefish Point, a wonderful Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum there. And we're looking forward to that. But thank you so much for your reviews and your thoughts and for buying a copy of The Edmund Fitzgerald Without a Trace, available now in ebook, paperback, and audiobook at appleaudiobooks.com. Thanks again. Well, moving forward in book publishing news, the book industry is experiencing significant changes and developments, and here are just a few of the latest highlights. First, I want to mention that KDP, the parent company of Amazon, has changed a bunch of policies in regards to authors. And we're also seeing a lot of consolidation in the market. Some large companies going out of business. Baker and Taylor, for example, in the UK, largest bookseller in the UK, is closing its doors after 150 years or so. But let's just take a look at some of the things that are happening in publishing news. First, AI integration, artificial intelligence. Publishers are increasingly adopting AI technologies to enhance their operations, including sales, marketing, inventory management. And this trend is evident in the use of AI in publishing professional companies. 63% in the recent survey, 63% of respondents said they were using AI in some capacity. Also happening now in publishing, diversity and AI skepticism. The industry is becoming much more diverse, and there is a growing rift among publishing educators regarding the use of AI. Some educators are teaching their mentees to embrace the technology, while others are instilling even more skepticism. Another side note is that Amazon KDP now requires authors to disclose whether or not they've used generative AI in the production of their books. Also, recent developments in publishing is a more regional focus. We're noticing outlets focusing on different regions. They're focusing on specific regions like the American Southland. There's a book store in, where was it? Where was I? In Georgia, Savannah. In Savannah. And the books, God, I want to remember it. But it's a bookstore that specializes in nothing but books about the Southland. So we're seeing much more of that. And I think that'll continue. Bookstores with a regional focus. In addition, a company called Publishers Global, it serves as an informational marketplace of global publishing industry. It provides a directory of publishers and publishing servicing companies along with industry news and such. And in one of their recent blurbs, they talked about the trends and insights, as well as how illustrators are being impacted by AI, and also how many large publishers are building AI into their future plans. One such company, Frankfurt Global Network, is with, I think, one of the largest. They're kind of like the Doubleday Publishing of Europe, I guess. They announced that they are going to embrace AI full on. And that includes helping with publishing, marketing, advertising, promotion, all of it. Yeah. Hey, I want to mention this new book. I'm really looking forward to reading it. It's called The Uncool, a memoir, and it's about Cameron Crowe, the fictional account of his rock journalism as a teenager, was in the movie Almost Famous. It's coming to us from HarperCollins. It's got a hefty price tag of $52. The Uncool, a memoir by Cameron Crowe. I'm looking forward to reading that one, and we're going to give you a full report on that. 25 years ago, the movie Almost Famous was released, so it's timely. Well, it's almost President's Day, so let's take a look at books and novels about presidents and American history. There are so many different kinds of readers, and as such, there are many, many incredible narratives for best history books. We've got everything from books about overall American history, in both fiction and nonfiction, to novels about specific presidents and specific historical events. I love history books. And whether you're looking for the latest from your favorite author like Ken Burns, Rick Atkinson, Andrew Ross Sorkin, or many of the other historical fiction authors, or maybe it's a new discovery pick. But rest assured, there is something for everyone, because as they say, those that do not remember history are condemned to repeat it. Let's take a look. Well, first on our list of great history books and books about presidents, how about The American President, A Complete History by Catherine Moore. This is a comprehensive reference book that covers the office of the presidency. From George Washington to Joe Biden, it provides a detailed narrative of each president's experiences, along with the facts, statistics. The book is praised for its thoroughness and authority, making it an essential guide to the presidency and a vital resource for anyone interested in American history. Moving forward with our best books about history and the presidency, how about A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn? My uncle actually had a copy of this on his bookshelf. It's a classic national bestseller, and Howard Zinn is a world-renowned historian. In A People's History of the United States, he chronicles American history from the bottom up, throwing out the official narrative, the one that's usually taught in school, with its emphasis on great men in high places, and instead he focuses on the street, on the home, on the workplace. As Howard Fast in the New York Times said recently, a wonderful, splendid book, a book that should be read by every American, student or otherwise, who wants to understand his country, its true history, and its hope for the future. Known for its lively and clear prose, as well as its scholarly research, it is the only volume to tell America's story from the point of view and the words of America's women, America's factory workers, African Americans, Native Americans, the working poor, immigrant laborers, all the people that basically built this country and that we never heard from before. As Zinn shows, many of our country's greatest battles, the fight for a fair wage, the fight for an 8-hour workday, child labor laws, health and safety standards, universal suffrage, women's rights, racial equality, were all carried out on the grassroots level against bloody resistance. And from Christopher Columbus's arrival through President Trump's first term, A People's History of the United States features insightful analysis of the most important events in American history. Well, this next book is on my bookshelf, Abe in His Time by David S. Reynolds, one of the most greatest historians of the 19th century. This is a revelatory and enthralling new biography of Lincoln, many years in the making. It really brings the 16th president to life within his turbulent age. It's now an Apple TV documentary called Lincoln's Dilemma, and according to Wall Street, it was their 10 best books of the year. The Washington Post named it a quote-unquote notable book, and the Christian Science Monitor had it walking away with its Best Book of the Year award. It was also the winner of the Abraham Lincoln Institute Book Award. A marvelous cultural biography that captures Lincoln in all his historical fullness. This big, wonderful book provides a fuller and richer cultural context of Abraham Lincoln, said reviewer Gordon Wood of the Wall Street Journal. This next one is on my Christmas list. How about it? The Accidental President. Harry S. Truman and the 4 Months That Changed the World by A.G. Bain. It's an Audible exclusive, and it is the pulse-pounding story of President Harry Truman's first 4 months in office, when this unlikely president had to take on Germany, Japan, deal with Stalin, deal with the atomic bomb, and with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. Tightly focused and meticulously researched and rendered with vivid detail and narrative verve, The Accidental President escorts listeners into the Situation Room with Truman during tumultuous history-making 120 days when the stakes were high and the challenges were even higher. The result is a narrative history book of the highest order and a compelling look at a presidency with great relevance to our times today. That certainly looks like an interesting one to have on the list. The Accidental President, Harry S. Truman, and the 4 Months That Changed the World. Moving ahead with our list of the top history books and books about the presidency, how about it for A Man of Iron, The Turbulent Life of an Improbable Presidency of Grover Cleveland by Troy Sinnott. This book explores the remarkable life and extraordinary career of President Grover Cleveland, the honest, principled, and plain-spoken president whose country has largely overlooked him. He was the most successful Democratic politician of his era. With prestigious research, rich detail, and a lively prose, A Man of Iron is a compelling and vivid biography, joining the ranks of presidential classics like David McCollum's John Adams, which I've read, Ron Chernow's Grant, and Amity Schell's Coolidge. That's certainly something to take a look at. A Man of Iron, The Turbulent Life and Improbable Presidency of Grover Cleveland by Troy Sinnott. Confronting the Presidents by Bill O'Reilly and Martin Dugard is up next. It covers every American president from Washington to Biden, their lives, their policies, their foibles, their legacies, and it's all assessed with a clear-eyed authority and wit that Bill O'Reilly has been known for. These guys are the authors of the acclaimed Killing books. They are now the #1 best-selling narrative history series in the world. And in this book, Bill O'Reilly and Martin Dugard begin a new direction. And whether famous, infamous, or obscure, all the presidents that shaped our nation in unexpected ways are covered. The author's extensive research has uncovered never-before historical facts based on private correspondence and newly uncovered documentation. For example, George Washington had a troubled relationship with his mother. Mary Todd Ford, Mrs. Lincoln, was a manic depressive. And so this is certainly something to be looked at, Confronting the Presidents by Bill O'Reilly. Well, no list of the top history and books about the presidents would be complete without this one of my favorites, PT 109, an American epic of war survival and the destiny of John F. Kennedy by William Doyle. This extraordinary World War II story of shipwreck and survival paved the way for John F. Kennedy's path to the presidency and is hailed as a breathtaking account by author James Patterson. Masterfully written, said historian Douglas Brinkley, and, quote, the finest book ever written on the subject, unquote, said Lieutenant Commander William LeBrow. He is the man who rescued JFK and the PT-109 crew in August of 1943. This book's been made into a major motion picture, PT-109. It is an unforgettable American epic of war and destiny. Moving forward, this is one that's one of my favorite authors and is on the list, Washington, A Life by Ron Chernow, a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel from the author of Alexander Hamilton, the New York Times best-selling bio that inspired the musical. which I have yet to see. And Sharon and I, that's on our bucket list for next year, to go see Hamilton on Broadway, or off Broadway. Washington, A Life is a gripping portrait of the first president of the United States, and was the winner of the Pulitzer Prize for biographies. I have read it, and it is very well researched, very well written, and absolutely the definitive biography on our first president. Celebrated bio writer Ron Chernow shatters forever the stereotype of George Washington as this stoic, unemotional figure, and brings to life a vivid man, dashing, passionate, and has fiery opinions and many different moods. Washington, A Life by Ron Chernow. Well, another book that's on the list about the Kennedys, The House of Kennedy, Joe, Jack, and Bobby, by one of my favorite authors, James Patterson. One of the world's most popular authors, and now with an all-new bonus chapter, his best-selling book, The House of Kennedy. Patterson applies his writerly skills to real-world history and the retelling of the political clan's rise and fall and rise and fall with finesse and style. The House of Kennedy is a revealing, fascinating account of America's most storied family, as told by America's most trusted storyteller. Check it out, The House of Kennedy by James Patterson. Well, rounding out our list of the top history books and books about the presidency in time for President's Day 2026, how about One Man Against the World, The Tragedy of Richard Nixon by Tim Werner. A New York Times bestseller, this is a shocking and riveting look at one of the most dramatic and disastrous presidencies in U.S. history, from Pulitzer Prize and National Book Award winner Tim Weir. Based largely on documents declassified only in the last few years, One Man Against the World paints a devastating portrait of a tortured yet brilliant man who led the country largely according to a deep-seated insecurity and his distrust of not only his cabinet and Congress, but the American people themselves. That's certainly one to have on the list. Been so many great books written about Richard Nixon, but check that one out. One Man Against the World, The Tragedy of Richard Nixon by Tim Werner. As our nation celebrates its 250th anniversary this year, these and other great books about past presidents and the history of our nation will make us both better Americans and highly entertained. Check these out at your local independent bookstore. God bless America, and happy President's Day 2026. Well, audiobooks is a little bit on hiatus this week, and we'll be back next week. But I wanted to point out that I'm listening to The Sweetness of Water by Nathan Harris. It was an Oprah Book Club selection, and it is outstanding. I'm going to have a full review for you. The Sweetness of Water by Nathan Harris. I'm listening to it now, courtesy of Audible. Everything I want to mention to you is about the Indie Reads Aloud podcast. What a wonderful, wonderful resource. Authors reading their books. It's that simple. Not a whole lot of ads, no hype, just authors reading to you directly from their books. And you can go and listen to, they have over 300 different read aloud segments of different authors reading from their books. I'm on there twice, reading from Space Cowboy and reading from Dark Open Sky. So go check that out. Indie Reads Aloud, storytelling time for you. Hey, I also want to mention to you a wonderful, wonderful music resource that I play in the background when I'm writing, and that is Dr. Saxlove. And this guy really is a very talented saxophonist. You put that on the background, and I don't know what it is, but somehow the creative juices just start flowing. And check it out, Dr. Saxlove. How appropriate for this month, right? Hey, you, put on your laughing cap. It's time for the jokes of the week. Hey, I really want to thank you for coming by and make it a point of coming by next week. We're gearing up into festival season in the springtime. We're excited about Books by the Bay. That festival's coming up. And we're going to do a special for St. Paddy's Day, Irish-themed books, either books that are by Irish writers or books that are set in Ireland. And we're going to do that for St. Paddy's Day coming up on the 17th of March. If you've got a subject or a book that you'd like to share, talk about, come on the show. We'd love to have you. Just give us an email or a private message, bookinfo@nextstopparadise.com, right here at the bottom of the screen. Don't forget to check the show notes for different links. And once again, we appreciate it very much. God bless America and those wonderful books about presidents, and you make it a great day.